Yeah. So in this class, we are going to discuss the difference between mutual funds and ETF, and we are going to do a problem based on that too. So one problem we'll do, like I'll try and do it right in front of you, and one problem I'll give it to you to do it on your own. So ETF and mutual fund are one of the two most common managed products. So ETF stands for exchange traded fund and mutual fund stands for mutual fund itself, right? So both of them are typed of managed product. So what is a managed product? So I'll explain it using an Excel. Okay. So what is the managed product? So managed product has structure like this. So investors contribute to a fund, okay, that is managed by a fund manager who makes investments. This fund manager makes investments on behalf of investors. This fund manager makes investments on behalf of investors. And where does he invest? He or she invest. The fund manager generally invests in equity, that is stock market, then debt, that is bond market, then keeps something in cash, maybe goes for alternative assets. Okay. So all types of managed products have similar structure. Investors contribute to a fund. That fund is handled by a fund manager who on behalf of investors make investments in equity, debt, cash and alternative assets. Now whatever gain the fund manager makes, right, that gets transferred to investors. Okay. Now, generally in mutual funds and ETF, when investor contributes to the fund, when investor gives money to the fund gives something called as net asset value per share. Okay. So fund will give you some units. Okay. Fund will give you some units. That units represent your stake in the fund investment. So once again, investors contribute money to a fund. Fund is managed by a fund manager who makes investments in different assets like equity, debt, cash, and alternative assets. Okay. When investors contribute money to a fund, the fund on lieu of that contribution, right, with against that contribution issues units. Okay. What does this unit represent? This unit represents your proportional claim in fund assets. Your proportional claim in fund assets. For example, if the fund has assets of $10,000 and you have contributed $1,000 out of that, so you will get 10% unit of 10% of the units that the fund has issued. So your proportionate claim in the fund's asset is your investment 1000 divided by fund's asset value. Okay, that is 10%. So whenever you invest in an ETF or a mutual fund, you get units. Now, the value of these units will go up if the investments are doing well. So whatever investment the fund manager makes, if after cost they are rising, the fund's unit value go up. Value of units will go down if the assets are not being managed well. So if the assets are falling in value, if the investments that fund manager has made is falling in value, the unit value also goes down. Okay. So this is the structure of basic managed product. Investors contribute fund to a fund, investor contribute money to a fund gives unit to investors. Units represent proportional claim in fund's asset. The fund manager then makes investments in different assets that their objective is, right? If the asset value grows, the fund assets grow, and so does the unit value. That is how a managed product work. Now there are many different types of managed product. So managed products can be mutual fund, which we are going to discuss. They can be ETF, exchange traded funds. They can be REITs, okay, special type of like fund that invest in real estate, okay. They can be a gold fund that invest in gold. They can be, let's say, a hedge fund or a venture fund. Okay, hedge funds generally have lesser regulations than mutual funds and other products, and venture funds generally invest in private or startup companies. So there can be many types of managed product. In this class, we are going to discuss about mutual funds and ETF. In the next week, we'll go on to all of this. Okay, so let's start. So ETF and mutual fund both are type of managed product. So what does that mean? Investors contribute fund that is accumulated enough, like investors contribute money that is accumulated in a fund. That fund is managed by a fund manager. Okay. So fund manager manages funds. In mutual fund also, fund managers manage fund. Now, if you see, mutual funds have two types, open or close. I'll explain what both are. So what is an open mutual fund? So open mutual fund means that the fund, so there is the fund and there are investors. So open mutual fund means investors can contribute into the fund anytime they want, right? And they can remove their units from the fund. They can sell their units back to the fund anytime they want. So it is like open mutual fund is always in the state of primary distribution. Open mutual fund is always in the state of primary distribution. What does that mean? That investors can contribute money anytime, contribute money and get units from the fund anytime, and investors can sell units and claim money back to the fund anytime. Okay, so in an open mutual fund, the fund provides liquidity. The fund provides liquidity. So you can, like as an investor, you can invest anytime into the fund. If you put money into the fund will make investments, right? You will get units on behalf of that, but you can also sell your units anytime. So if you sell your units, the fund will sell investments or use its cash reserves to fund your request. So fund provides liquidity. You can buy anytime, you can sell anytime. But to do this, they have to keep higher amount of cash. They have to keep higher amount of cash. What do I mean by higher amount of cash? Any investor can ask for money from the fund anytime he or she wants. So to accumulate that, to accommodate that request, they have to keep a certain amount of cash in their fund. So all of their money is not invested. They have certain liquidity that they have to keep all times, right? This creates something called as a cash drag. What is a cash drag? It reduces returns as all cash is not invested. It reduces returns as all cash is not invested. Okay, this is a open mutual fund. Now what is a closed mutual fund? So again, you have investors and you have the fund. You have investors and you have the fund. Investors can contribute money only when the NFO, new fund offer period, is active. So there is a window at the start of the mutual fund when investors can contribute their money. Okay, after that period ends, the fund stops taking any new investments. Okay, so investors can contribute money only when NFO, new fund offer, is active. Second, investors have lock-in periods. Investors have lock-in periods. So investors are locked in. They cannot sell their investments within that lock-in period. Third, after the lock-in period, there is a redemption window. After the lock-in period gets over, there is a redemption window when you can withdraw your money. So what is a closed-ended fund? Closed-ended fund means that fund issues call out for capital, right? So fund will say, I'm going to start making investments. I want money. Whoever is interested, put their money with me. So investors contribute their money into the fund, right? Now, investors are locked in for a certain period. Okay, within that lock-in period, they cannot make any investments. After the lock-in period is over, right? During the redemption window, investors can pull out their money. Now, there is a big problem in close-ended mutual funds that they don't have liquidity. They don't have liquidity. Because you have a lock-in period. You can invest only during a period, like during a window, and you can redeem only during a window. So within that windows, you cannot redeem your money. So that reduces the liquidity. They don't have liquidity as compared to open mutual fund. Now industry has got around this by listing these close-ended funds on an exchange. Invest like the mutual fund industry has gotten around this limitation of liquidity by investing, by listing these funds on an exchange. So even though you cannot ask for money, right, from the mutual fund that you have bought the units from, you can sell those units on an stock exchange. Okay, so they try to list their units. Most close ended funds do, some may not, right? But close ended funds try to list their units on an exchange so that investors can get out by selling it to someone else if they want. So they provide liquidity by getting listed on an exchange. Okay, one advantage of close ended funds, they have less cash drag. Close-ended funds have less cash drag. Any questions with open-ended or close-ended mutual funds? Okay. Now, let's discuss what an ETF is then. ETF is somewhat similar to a close-ended mutual fund. Okay, it is somewhat similar to close-ended mutual fund, but the structure is little bit different. So how does an ETF work? So there is an investor, there is a dealer, and there is a fund house that manages that ETF. Okay, investor, dealer, and fund house. Investor contributes money. So let's see the buy cycle. Investor contributes money. Investor contributes money. Okay. Dealer, okay, dealer checks inventory to see if units are available. Okay. If they are not available, they ask fund to create units. They ask funds to create units. Okay. Funds receives money and creates units. So I'll explain. What happens when an ETF is launched? Initially, dealer puts in money and buys all the units from an ETF. Now dealer gets those units. The dealer starts selling those units to investor. So let's say initially when the fund was launched, dealer had 100 units available with him. Now investors are coming in, they're buying those 100 units, but because the fund manager is really popular, let's say Elon Musk starts a mutual fund, the fund is extremely popular, so investors are flocking in. The dealer runs out of units, whatever he or she has created in the beginning. Now what will the dealer do? Whenever he gets new money, he will provide that new money to the fund house, and fund house will create additional units and give it to dealer. Okay, so it is a constant cycle. So if the units are available with the dealer, they provide it to investors. If units are not available with the dealers, then they go to the fund house to create additional units. Okay, same way, a sell cycle. Investor sells units. Okay, mostly the units are sold on an exchange using dealers. So when an investor sells whatever units he or she has on an exchange using dealers, dealers will first try to find if any buyer is available. If the buyer is available, the units straight away go to that buyer. Okay. But if the buyer is not available, then they do a request to the fund house to sell investments and provide them cash. Okay. So it's always a two-step process. When you buy an ETF on a stock market, it goes to a dealer. The dealer will see if he has units, he will give it to you. If he doesn't have units, if he or she doesn't have units, they will create additional units by putting a request to the fund house. Same way, when you sell your ETF, right, on an exchange, right, in the stock market, they will see whether there is a buyer available to that trade. If the buyer is not available, they will put a request to the fund house to sell investments to provide money. To sell investments in and to provide money. Now, The advantage between ETF, exchange traded fund, over a close ended mutual fund is close ended mutual funds generally trade at a high premium or discount to assets. Close-ended mutual funds generally trade at a high premium or discount to assets. So even though liquidity is there, because close-ended mutual funds trade on exchanges, they do trade at a high premium or discount. Okay. Example will be, there is a very good close-ended mutual fund that is listed. So this is a close-ended mutual fund that gets listed. So if you see, we'll search it out, the premium or discounts on. Okay. So this is a mutual fund, like a close-ended mutual fund, like similar to that, that invest in Bitcoins, because Bitcoin ETF is not allowed yet. So mostly if you want to invest using an exchange mechanism, right, you have GBTC, that is traded OTC, over the counter, or you have QBTC, that is the Canadian version, that is actually traded on TSX. So you can use that to invest, but this is a closed ended mutual fund similar to that. But if you see, the premium is quite high right now. It is trading at a premium of 6%, but it can go as high as 40%. So whatever Bitcoin it owns, you have to pay 6% more on that, right, to buy a unit. Same way this was traded at 40% even. So premium varies a lot, right? So that creates an issue with close ended mutual funds. But if most ETFs, okay, do not trade at such kind of premiums, because a dealer is involved. So if dealer finds lot of premiums, they will do an arbitrage. Okay. Because of dealer arbitrage, right, the premium and discounts on ETFs are way lower than a close ended mutual fund. Okay. So how to summarize it? We had a long discussion. How to just summarize it? What is an open-ended mutual fund? Open-ended means you actually trade with the fund. You do not trade on an exchange. You do not trade through dealers, right? You actually converse with the fund. Whenever you want money, right? Whenever you want to contribute money, you put it with the fund. The fund gives you unit. When you want to sell your units, you go to the fund and sell those units. Close-ended mutual funds, you cannot do that, because there is an investment period, there is a lock-in period, and there is a redemption period. Some of them do not have a redemption period at all. So what they do, they take money from investors, right, buys units, right, and get those units listed on an exchange. An issue with close-ended mutual fund, they have high premium or discounts, okay, when you buy it on an exchange. ETF, if you consider, ETF is somewhat similar to close ended, okay, but the difference is you have a dealer involved now. So when you do a buy, you generally buy it on an exchange, either from some investor. If some investor is not available, right, then the fund creates additional units and gives it to you. If you sell it to another investor. If the another investor is not available with the dealer, then the fund sells the assets and gives money back to you. Now the advantage is they trade at low premium or discount as compared to close-ended mutual funds because of arbitrage. Okay. One advantage that ETF and close-ended mutual funds have over an open-ended mutual fund is less cash drag. So the ETF provider, the fund house, doesn't keep much cash because he or she doesn't need to. So the cash drag is really less. But in an open-ended mutual fund, the cash drag can be quite intense. Now, with this background, let's discuss the rest of it. Okay. So mutual funds can be of two types, open and closed. Okay. ETFs can be of two types, passive and active. So I'll discuss it a bit. So what is an active ETF? Active ETF generally does lot of stock selection. Okay. So they do not follow an index. They do stock selection. So they try to beat the index. A passive ETF doesn't do stock selection. They just follow the index. Their objective is to match index. Is to match index. Okay. Example will be, so first an active ETF example. So OGIG. So it's an O share internet giant ETF. So it's an active ETF. So what does an active ETF do? Active ETF. So this ETF generally invest in internet companies around the world, right? It has its own rule that it follows. None of the stocks are above 5%. That's the rule it follows. So it has Amazon, then Alibaba, Alphabet, Tencent, Facebook, etc., etc. Okay, so this ETF generally invest in tech companies around the world, but it doesn't follow a specific index. Okay, it has some American companies, some Chinese companies, some around the world. So there is a little bit of like Asian companies too. So OGIG is an example of active ETF. Now active ETFs generally have higher cost. Active ETFs generally have higher cost. Example of a passive ETF will be, example, let's say QQQ. Since we're discussing tech, QQQ. Now this ETF is a passive ETF. QQQ is a passive ETF. What does it do? It copies the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ 100 is an index. So it copies it exactly. So Apple is there. So weightage is much higher, right? So OGIG has a rule that it doesn't cross 5%. But Apple like NASDAQ ETF can, it generally follows the index. So whatever portion of stock is there in the index, it will invest in that. So it is much more passive. Okay. Passive ETFs generally have lower cost. Now, what is the difference between ETF and mutual fund? ETFs generally have lower cost structure, so they have a lower MER, right? Now, what is MER? I'll explain it to you. So, most of the managed products charge a yearly fee that is called as management fee. Now, management fee along with some other fee is expressed in a mutual fund as an MER. Is expressed as in a mutual fund as an MER. The full form of MER is management expense ratio. Management expense ratio. Now, a key important point to note, This MER is a fee that you pay on the assets you hold. MER is the fee that you pay on the assets that you hold. Okay, so whatever assets you're holding, it is a fee that you pay on those assets. It's not a fee, not a share of returns you make. Example, let's say you have $1,000 of investment in a mutual fund and it charges 1% MER. Okay, so fees that you will pay is this into 1%. $10 fee you will pay. MER is charged yearly, right? So you will pay a $10 fee every year. It is actually attributed daily on and it comes out of NAV. But effectively, like to conceptualize it, it is a fee that is charged yearly. So on $1,000, you have to pay $10 of fee, right? Now, if this goes, like if the fund value goes up, right, the investments are doing well, and the fund value goes up 10 times, you still have to pay MER. So MER will go up to $11. And same way, if the fund goes down by 10%, you still have to pay MER. So MER will go down to $9. So once again, MER, management expense ratio, is the fee that an ETF or a mutual fund charges every year. So you have to pay it every year on the amount of assets you have. If your assets are growing, the MER also grows. If the assets are falling, the MER goes down. But it is not a share of returns you make. So even if you do not make any returns in a mutual fund or an ETF, you still have to pay some fees. Okay. So this is MER, management expense ratio. Now, certain mutual funds also charge loads. So loads means there are two types of loads, front end loads and back end loads. Front end loads are fees when you buy mutual fund, and back end load is fees when you sell mutual fund. Okay. So mutual funds can charge additional fees. ETFs generally do not have loads, but mutual funds can charge additional fees along with MER. They generally charge front end loads, okay, fees that you pay when you buy a mutual fund, and they also charge back end loads, fees that you pay when you sell a mutual fund. This should be sell. So mutual funds effectively can have much higher fees than ETFs. So ETFs have lower MER and no loads. Mutual funds have higher MER and they can also have certain loads. ETFs does not have front end or deferred sales loads. Mutual funds may have front end or back end loads. Okay. In an ETF, liquidity is provided by dealer using stock markets. In a mutual fund, depending on whether it is an open or a close, liquidity is provided by the fund if it is an open-ended fund, or liquidity is provided by the market using close-ended fund. Problem with close-ended funds, they can trade at significant premiums or discounts to their net asset value. Okay. Now let's look at certain types of mutual funds that you can buy, and then we can go to ETFs, common ETFs that are bought and sold. So mutual funds, if you look at it, so there are n number of categories of mutual funds. I'll explain a few. So if you go to this website funddata.com, you will get all kinds of mutual funds there. Okay, so you can choose, pick your category, whichever category you want. So the first category that is there is a target date portfolio. So what is a target date portfolio? Target date means the fund does auto. So fund is basically a balance fund. Balance fund means it invests in stocks and bonds. Balance fund means it invests in stocks and bonds, right? Target date works like if the fund is relatively like away from maturity, the fund is away from maturity, it will have higher stock allocation. If the fund nears maturity, the fund will have higher bond allocation. So it cycles automatically. If fund has a lot of time to go, let's say 15 years to go, it will have higher stock allocation. If the fund has 5 years to go, it will have lower stock allocation and it will go into bonds. So it is good. It is generally used for retirement purposes. So if you see, the first type you see is a 2025 target date fund, so that is just 5 years away, so it will have much higher bond allocation. Then you have 2035 target date fund, that is 15 years away, right? The maturity is 15 years away, so you have much higher stock allocation. People generally use it to match their retirement. So let's say you're retiring in 2035, you can start investing in this mutual fund and it will automatically rebalance. Right now it will have higher stock. As the retirement comes near, it will go into higher bonds, so that you don't take much risk in the stock market when the retirement is near. Okay, then the next common type is Asia Pacific. So these type of funds generally invest in Asia. So Asia is some funds have Japan in it, some funds do not have Japan in it. So you can invest in Asia Pacific that has Japan in it, or you can have, right, ex Japan, that is it doesn't have Japan. Then there is a lot of Canadian funds. So you have Canadian equity fund, Canadian equity balanced fund, that is a mixture of stocks and bonds. Then you have focused equity. Then you have small and mid cap, that is smaller companies in Canada. Then you have bond funds, right? All kinds of Canadian funds. You have a commodity fund, okay, that invest in commodities. Then you have emerging market equity. Emerging market is mostly Asia, but new and upcoming countries. So it can be some countries in Africa like South Africa, Brazil. Then most weightage is Korea, then China, and all those things. So you can invest in emerging markets also. You can invest in energy, that is oil and gas, right? And there are many funds. Then there are US specific funds too. Now, all these are mutual funds. So let's say a US specific fund. Okay, so this is the fund. So Dynamic Power American Growth. So it is showing the top performing funds for the period. So it has given 72% return, right, in last 1 year. In 3 years, it has on an average given 40% every year return. Now, past performance is not indicative of future. So the returns can actually differ a lot. But if you open this, you'll see all the details. So this fund generally charges an MER of 0.85. So it charges, like if you invest $1,000, $8.50 will be charged as fee every year. So $1,000 if you invest, on that it will charge 0.85%. That is $8.50 every year as MER. Doesn't have any loads, so no front end load or back end load. So when you buy this, you don't have to pay front end, like fees to buy and fees to sell. Most mutual funds have stopped charging front end and back end loads, so that's also a case. So there are a lot of options on which funds you can trade, or you can buy and sell. Now, common ETFs that you can buy and generally investors look at, the first ETF is Canadian broad market, or rather than broad market, Canadian TSX composite. So it will generally have 240 odd, like biggest 240 companies in Canada. So it will invest in large cap stocks in Canada. TSX composite generally tracks 240 odd companies. It changes a bit, but it when like essentially tracks 240 companies in Canadian stock market. So you can invest using an ETF in that. The ETF to do that is XIC. There are many ETFs, but XIC is where the fees are quite low. Okay, the fee is 0.05. So XIC MER 0.05. Okay, then so this was Canadian markets. If you look at American markets, you have S&P 500, that is 500 big companies in United States. So number of stocks you will have is 500. An ETF that tracks that is VOO. So if you have exposure, if you want exposure to S&P 500, you can generally look at buying VOO. Okay, the MER is 0.03. If you want to invest in tech companies or tech sector, generally people go for Nasdaq 100. So that is a tech heavy ETF that composes of 100 stocks. QQQ is famous. It's quite liquid in that spectrum. It has an MER of 0.2%. If you want to go for emerging markets, then you in Canada you can go for some XEM, right? XEM is an ETF that charges emerging markets, that tracks emerging market. So expense ratio is 0.82. This has like many number of stocks. Okay, symbol is XEM. So either you can buy mutual funds to diversify, you can buy Canadian mutual funds, American mutual funds, emerging market mutual funds, or you can even look at ETFs, right? By investing in ETFs. There are a few active ETFs too. Famous active ETFs is ARC, right? That is managed by Kathy Woods. It is a tech focused ETF. Then there are sector based ETF like XLE, that is an oil and gas ETF. Okay. You can even look at some specialized ETFs like ESPO, that is a gaming ETF. All this will have higher MERs. All of this, like active, like or sector specific ETFs, generally have higher management expense ratio. Any questions? So I'll stop the share. We'll take a 10 minutes break and we'll continue with calculations.